My brother Samuel's behavior at our cousin Holly's wedding was appalling. He started hitting on my girlfriend, Victoria, as soon as she walked in. He practically pushed our mom out of the way to be the first to hug Victoria, holding on for way too long until she had to physically step back. Throughout dinner, he kept finding excuses to touch her arm or shoulder, telling fake inside jokes that made no sense since they just met. He even shoved past me multiple times to sit next to her. The final straw was when he tried to feed her from his own fork while making intense eye contact. Victoria was obviously uncomfortable, but she kept being polite since it was our first family gathering and she wanted to make a good impression. After dinner, things got even worse. Victoria offered to help clean up, and I was helping my dad move some boxes in the garage when I realized I hadn't seen Victoria for a while. I found her in the kitchen with Samuel, who had her cornered by the sink. He was telling her how she deserved someone more exciting than his boring, unstable older brother. When I walked in, Victoria looked relieved and immediately came to stand by me. Samuel just laughed it off like it was all some big joke, but I could feel Victoria trembling. This was just the latest incident in a long history of Samuel's concerning behavior. Growing up, he would deliberately break my things and blame me for it. He killed my pet hamster by feeding it chocolate, and our parents said it was an accident. As adults, Samuel's behavior hasn't changed. He's sabotaged every relationship I've tried to have, convincing my girlfriend's families that I'm not a good partner. My parents have always defended him, saying he's just being protective or that I'm exaggerating. When I met Victoria, I decided to do things differently. I kept our relationship a secret from my family for the first 3 months because I wanted to protect her from Samuel's usual tactics. Victoria is an amazing person, and I'm lucky to have her in my life. She's brilliant, compassionate, and works as a pediatric nurse at our local hospital. We met in the hospital cafe, and everything just felt right. She knows all about my family history, and she's always trying to see the best in people. When we finally introduced Victoria to my family at a dinner party, Samuel's behavior was appalling. A few days later, Victoria started getting strange calls and texts from numbers she didn't recognize. At first, it was just heavy breathing or immediate hang-ups when she answered. Then, they started leaving increasingly creepy voicemails, calling her stuck up and frigid for rejecting a better option. Some messages mentioned specific details about her work schedule and what she was wearing that day, proving someone was watching her. I recognized some of the voices as Samuel's old friend from high school. When Victoria blocked those numbers, they just started calling for new ones. Then, Samuel's friends began showing up at the hospital, pretending to be visitors, but just hanging around the pediatric ward where Victoria works. They would stare at her for hours, making comments just loud enough for her to hear. Last week, one of them followed her to her car after a night shift, and she was so scared she called me crying from her car. I had to go pick her up and drive her car home while my friend followed in his car to make sure we weren't being tailed. Victoria has started having panic attacks before her shifts, and her coworkers have noticed something's wrong. I finally had enough proof to confront Samuel directly. I had recordings of the voicemails, screenshots of the texts, and security camera footage from the hospital showing his friend stalking Victoria. When I showed him the evidence, he just sat there with a smug smirk on his face, saying he had no idea what I was talking about. My parents' reaction was even worse than I expected. They defended Samuel, saying Victoria must have led him on and was now playing the victim. They didn't even look at the evidence I was trying to show them. My mom was hysterical about her baby boy being attacked, while my dad was screaming about how I've always been jealous of Samuel and need professional help for my anger issues. We've been trying to deal with the situation, but it's been a nightmare. The police won't do anything without more concrete evidence linking Samuel directly to the harassment. Victoria is living in fear her job might be at risk, and my family is acting like we're the ones causing problems. Things escalated when Samuel assaulted Victoria at Holly's wedding. He pinned her against the wall in the hallway outside the bathrooms, trying to force himself on her while she struggled. Several guests recorded the whole incident, and the police were called. Samuel was arrested and charged with assault. My parents were furious, but not with Samuel, with me and Victoria. They claimed that Victoria had led Samuel on and that we were just trying to ruin his reputation. The aftermath was brutal. My parents started calling us nonstop, trying to convince us to drop the charges. They said that Samuel was sorry and that he would get help. But we knew better. We knew that Samuel's behavior was a pattern and that he needed to be held accountable. Victoria and I decided to take matters into our own hands. We hired a lawyer and started gathering evidence to build a case against Samuel. We documented every incident, every phone call, every text message, and every encounter with Samuel and his friends. As the days went by, more and more evidence came to light. We discovered that Samuel had a history of abusive behavior, and that he had been manipulating and controlling his girlfriend for years. We also found out that my parents had been enabling him all along, covering up for his behavior and making excuses for his actions. The police finally started to take us seriously, and Samuel's charges were upgraded to aggravated assault. My parents were shocked and angry, but we knew that we had made the right decision. We've been dealing with the aftermath of Samuel's behavior for months now. It's been a long and difficult journey, but we're finally starting to see some progress. Samuel is facing the consequences of his actions, and my parents are starting to realize the harm they've caused. Victoria and I are building a new life together, far away from the toxicity of my family. We're expecting a baby, and we're excited to start this new chapter. We've learned that family is not just about blood ties, but about the people who support and love you unconditionally. I know that we'll always carry the scars of our past with us, but we're determined to move forward and create a better future for ourselves and our child. We're grateful for the support of our friends and loved ones, and we're excited to see what the future holds. In the end, we've learned that sometimes the hardest thing to do is to stand up for yourself and set boundaries. But it's also the most important thing you can do for yourself and your loved ones. We're proud of ourselves for taking a stand and refusing to be silenced or manipulated. We're proud of each other for being strong and resilient. And we're excited to see what the future holds for us.